Welcome to my office. If you've never been called to the superintendent's office, well, you have now. And we're glad you're here. Thank you guys for being a part of this. I'm just going to say right off the bat, this is unprecedented times, and to some degree we're all tired of hearing that. But when it comes to recreating school, we did it last spring with some success. Obviously, there were things that we could learn from, and we hopefully did learn from that. But now as we start the fall, we're starting all over again. So it's important to remember that basically what we learned last spring or what you learned about the procedures and how things would be done, that's probably all gone. So we're starting over again. So several of the questions that were sent in to us were assumptions that things would look the same as they did last spring. And that's the point I'm trying to make is rules have changed for us by the state of Texas, and our abilities have changed and so on. So things will look a little bit different as we get going. So we'll try and explain that more as we go through some details. If you want to do a little research on your own, if you want to check anything out, a great resource when it comes to school is to go to the Texas Education Agency website. If you go to tea.texas.gov/coronavirus, you'll find a whole page full of links, tiles, and so on that will take you to a variety of information sources. And no secrets, you guys are welcome to look at any of that, see exactly what we're seeing and what we're trying to respond to. One of those is public health, and there's public health guidance, several different documents in there that we're relying on heavily. And so again, you may want to see those, and feel free to do that. In the room with me, to my left, I don't know how that shows up on the screen, but is Coach Phillips. He is our athletic director and dean of students. So he was going to address some athletic things here in a little while. Next to him is Mrs. Carter. Hannah Carter is our high school principal, wears many hats for us, and she will address some of the items from the secondary campus perspective. Next to her is Miss Veronica Tagle, who's our band director. She will try and address some of those things. And joining with you guys on the Zoom is Mr. Andrew Udy, and so he will also address some elementary items. We're all kind of looking up at a big screen here, so we're not looking right at the camera. The camera's down here. I hope that's not too awkward for everybody, but we're going to try and work through some of these things that way. Let me just make some general comments about what school will look like and some events that are coming up, and then we'll work our way around the room. So as you know, Monday and Tuesday, the 27th and 28th, we are set up, or will be set up, for registration. We'll run it through the elementary school. It'll be a drive-through deal, so we'll use that big wraparound road at the elementary to have some different stations and get you some paperwork and so on. And a lot of the questions that have come in are related to at-home learning. So I don't even know how to describe all that, but there's a million acronyms, names, titles, all that kind of stuff in education. At-home learning is what we're talking about, that is still associated with Forsan ISD. That's a little different than some of the other terms where you go on your own and try and get a curriculum or something like that. So homebound, homeschooling, those are different. Those mean different things to us. So we're going to try and talk about at-home learning in this environment. That idea is one that was sprung on schools about midsummer. And so all of us are scrambling, trying to make sure that we know what those rules are and what that will look like in the classroom. Individual teachers, if you talk to them, they're probably going to give you what their idea of what they think that's going to look like right now, because as you can imagine, we have not had those teachers on campus yet for us to go through all the details and work through the kinks. My point is, you may get some kind of confusing responses right now as we dig through those details. But in general, The rules will be, if you choose to have your child stay at home, you have that right. We will require that to be done in no shorter time spans than grading periods. We often call them 6-week timelines. So first 6 weeks, second 6 weeks, and so on. Reality, if you look at a calendar, they're not always 6 weeks long. Sometimes they're 5 weeks long. Sometimes they're 7 weeks long. Depends on Christmas breaks and some things like that, and dividing things up. So, but anyways, so those two terms may mean the same thing. A grading period in this conversation may mean the same thing, the grading period in the 6 weeks period. So if you choose on Monday the 27th to do the at-home learning with your child, then the first 6 weeks of school, you're committed to that. And several reasons for that. One of the more obvious ones is that we have to divvy up our resources and figure out how many students are doing what and who's teaching what area and so on. And so many of the questions that you have, or I would assume that you have, won't be answered until after we know how many students are doing that. So after Monday and Tuesday, we'll figure out, is there just one student in 3rd grade, or are there 20 in 3rd grade? And our response is different based on what we find out there. So I'm going to, again, general answers for now, but more specific information will be coming as we get those commitments for the first 6 weeks. It is my opinion, and I think it's broadly held, that going back and forth between at-home learning and in-school learning is not a great idea. So think about that as you're trying to make those decisions. In many cases, we are going to try to have the at-home learners on the same page with the at-school learners. That's probably truer and more possible in the upper grade levels than it is the lowest grade levels. I'm hesitating a little bit because our general plan right now calls for using something called Texas Home Learning, which the Texas Education Agency is putting together, and for certain grade levels, probably the lower grade levels. And then as we get into the upper grades, the teachers will try and do what we're calling synchronous education. In other words, they'll do live videotaping of what's going on in the classroom. And so your student can join right in real time. This is what's happening. This is what my friends are doing at school. Now, they may not record the entire, let's say it's a 45-minute lesson. They may not record the entire 45 minutes because their instruction time may only be the first 20 minutes. So they may record the 20 minutes, turn the video off, and have the students do work on their own or something along those lines. But there's some question marks there, partly due to the Texas Home Learning system has not been made available to us yet. So we don't know what it looks like. So we can't commit to it, and we can't tell you what it's going to look like yet. We hoped that it would come out this week. The commissioner has another Zoom call with all the superintendents in the state at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And it's very possible that they'll give us more information at that time on what that looks like. But that's just an example of us saying, we think we're headed this direction, but we aren't 100% sure. And something just went crazy on our end. Are we still good?
I think so.
Okay, so we'll learn a little bit more, and we'll pass that information on to you just as quickly as we can. One of the issues, or one of the things with Texas Home Learning, is that the rules require that your student be available in the same hours that they would be at school. So that's one of the differences from what happened last spring. So last spring, a student could sleep in, could get behind, and I'm sorry, I'm distracted because our screen's going nuts here. But, okay, maybe we're back.
Well, you're always on.
Okay.
No matter what that does.
So it's a little hard though when it's all going back up. What was I saying? Okay. Time of day. Okay, time of day. So one of the differences was your child could sleep in, you could be at work and not available to help them, things like that in the spring. And it didn't matter because you could work with them in the evenings. They could do their work on Saturday. They could get turned in by some deadline and all was good. That is not the case now by TEA's rules. It has to be day by day. And they're trying to make sure that the shift is to a teacher-led instruction. We relied on you as parents to a huge degree last spring. And now what they're trying to do is say, no, that's not the parent's responsibility, it's the teacher's responsibility. So it needs to be much more day by day through the week. They're even tying some funding rules to that. In other words, we don't get to, for funding purposes, can't get to count your child present if they aren't connected that day. If they're doing makeup work later, it's just like they miss school in a traditional school setting and so on. So they've changed the rules on us, and we're trying to figure out how that's actually going to play out. But my point was, it's 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. Holidays are off now, just like they would be before, but that's a big change from last spring. All right, shifting to probably the other big topic, and that is face masks. What are the requirements with children having to wear face masks? So we have to comply with the same rules that you have to comply with when you go to the grocery store or anywhere else. According to the governor's plan, what was that? His executive order GA 29 or something like that. Thought I could find it, but anyway, we all have to wear face masks. Everybody age 10 and up. So teachers will be wearing, staff will be wearing face masks. Students age 10 and up are required to. So let me now give so you may consider that bad information or bad news, whatever. Let me give you the better side of that. There is some flexibility in course, if there's medical issues or whatever, you need to check with us. We'll try and figure out what that is and how we need to handle that. But there is some flexibility with the use of face shields rather than face masks. And so I can't say this for sure, but I think a lot of the teachers are probably going to be wearing face shields so that students can see their mouths, so the communication is better. They will have some options there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Personally, and probably many of you are like this, I hate the face mask. I've got them. I wear them when I go someplace, but wearing them long periods of time bothers me, scares me, makes me nauseous, so I get overheated. I don't like it. Everything that you guys have, we're experiencing the same things. So having said that, we are working hard to try and make sure that we can give as many breaks as possible during the day from wearing those masks. So if they go outside, they can take them off. At lunchtime, obviously, when they eat, they can wear them through the lunch line, get their food, they can sit down, they can take the masks off. PE and athletics, when they're involved that way, band class, they can take them off. So there's various times that way that are embedded in the day. We're trying to make opportunities for students to be able to walk outside even when they're changing classes, so that instead of going down hallways, they'll be outside and they can take their mask off, that kind of thing. One of the things that we've heard a lot of talk about recently, in fact, we had a discussion this morning with athletics and so on, was the gaiters, things that you can pull down around your neck and then just pull up when you need to. Scientifically, I don't know if that's as great as some of the others. That's a decision you guys can make, but that certainly complies with the rules. And it probably gives a lot more flexibility to the kids and some comfort level there too. So there are some different options. Somebody on Facebook, I think, had shown us some face shields that were tied to caps. They attached to the cap instead of a headband. And that is acceptable. If the hat is a part of the garb, then they can wear caps to school and we'll be fine with that. So anyway, there's a little bit about the face mask ideas. General questions about cleaning our plan, and some of you have done your homework. We appreciate that. You went and read through the plan and tried to figure out, as we are, how that's going to work. There's lots of cleaning to be done. And about the only way we can get everything done is that students are also going to have to help us clean their area. So they may be responsible for wiping down their desk before they move to another spot so that it's cleaned as they do that. Teachers will oversee that process. Of course, we have custodial help and so on, and we'll all have that goal. But there were some concerns about allergies, students that have allergies, or maybe the chemicals will be too harsh for the students' hands, some things like that. I think the best we can do is say, communicate with us individually on that. We'll work to try and do whatever we need to take care of your students in that way. And I think we can figure that out. Another question that came up several times is, will school be shut down for 14 days at a time? So that's one of those questions that as a school board, even we sat and talked about. It's like, it's crazy. You can shut down school for 14 days and just about the time you're ready to come back, somebody else could test positive and you shut down for another 14 days and we could go all school year with ever having in-person instruction. The rules have changed. And I think this is critical. So the rules now refer to something called close contact. So the only people that have to be sent home in isolation are those that have had close contact with an individual that's tested positive. And close contact is specifically defined. Again, I'll refer you back to TEA's webpage. You can go in there and see how they do that. But it's pretty specific. In other words, if you have a 15-minute conversation or longer with someone where they're not wearing a mask and you're not wearing a mask, that's close contact. If that person is test positive, then you're in isolation. That's very specific. But that is a rule changer then on the whole 14-day thing. So it's very possible that as kiddos become sick or staff become sick or whatever, that groups will be sent home for periods of time, but probably not the entire school. What will shut down a school, and that shutting down the school and shifting everybody to distance learning is one of our plans that we're working on. What would cause that? That would be caused by us having too many staff members ill that we can't function. We don't have enough teachers. We don't have enough substitute teachers, something along that line. Just a big outbreak in the area would cause that. The county judge can cause that. The city mayor can cause that to happen. So there's some different groups that will be monitoring where we are with the number of COVID cases and so on, and they have the authority to send us into that. In preparation for that, Mr. McVickers has ordered additional Chromebooks and hotspots and things that we're trying to ramp up and get ready so that if we need to shift to that environment, we can do that, and we can do a better job than we did last spring as far as our ability to communicate with kids and that kind of thing. All right, so close contact. Remember that it's going to come up. It's going to come up again as we go through. All right. I think I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Carter and let her talk about some things at the secondary campus. And after that, we'll probably go ahead and finish up the secondary campus. So Coach Phillips is athletic director, Mrs. Table with band, and then after that, we'll go to Mr. Udy, and we'll see if we can answer some of those questions along the way. So, Mrs. Carter.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us today and all of your patience and flexibility. This has definitely been a challenge. It's a team effort. We have appreciated the input you've given us, the questions you've sent, just everything that you've done. We know it's hard for y'all, it's hard for us too, but we're gonna make it. We're gonna work together and make everything work. I have some questions about junior high school, and I think I can, in answering those questions, can give you some insight into what our day is going to look like over here. First of all, we have a couple of questions about registration, which is on Monday and Tuesday next week from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that's for all students, junior high, high school, and elementary. And we will have a drive-through process at the elementary campus. So that's for all students, new students, sixth graders, everybody included in that. So if anybody's going to be out of town, just when you get back, come by. We can get the packet for you and can get the schedule for your student. We're working on schedules, finishing those up this week, and those will be shared for junior high, high school with the registration packets. Once those are complete, we can give the student their schedule, and we'll get that done on Monday and Tuesday if you're here. And if you're not, just when you get back to town, let us know. You can call or just come by and we can take care of that for you. I think that was all I had. Only questions we had on registration. And yeah, you can bring as many kids as you've got. You bring them all at once if you want to bring them, or just the parent can come. But there are some things in the packet that the child needs to sign and they need to be aware of. So if you need to take it home and bring it back, you can do that, or you can come up, drive through, fill it out while you're here in your car, and then turn it in at that same date. We have some questions about breakfast and lunch and how's that going to look. And this is one of the things that you may hear different schools doing it different ways. This is how we're going to at least start off with doing it here at the junior high, high school. For breakfast and lunch, kids will not eat in classrooms, but they won't all be in the cafeteria together. We do need to spread them out. Our cafeteria gets pretty crowded, so we want to make sure that they can stay distance from each other and also have some time to eat. So we will have, what we're thinking now is probably the junior high gym for sixth grade, practice gym for 7th or 8th grade, and then the other one would be in the cafeteria. That's for lunch. And they would have a staggered, we'll stagger them coming through the lunch line. So they won't all come as a junior high at once as they have in the past. In their general lunchtime, they'll have 25 minutes for lunch, but they'll also have several minutes for some outside time and also for restroom time, because those are some big groups to try to get them through washing hands and getting ready for lunch. So the lunch times will be staggered, but they will also be in different areas. So they'll be able to go through the line, get the hot lunch, or if they brought their lunch, they go right to their spot. But they'll have some social distancing and some of that time to be outside if the weather's okay for that. And also a good amount of time to wash hands. So we'll do that for junior high. The same idea applies for high school. They will have a staggered schedule within about an hour block, but they'll be staggered coming in through the line. We'll have a different grade level in each couple of the gyms. Some will be in the cafeteria, but the same general idea applies to high school. For breakfast, we will have different locations in the gyms and the cafeteria for breakfast. We're still working out the details on which grade level will be where, and we know we'll have kids coming in on buses. We'll have kids getting dropped off by parents. We will probably have a few different drop-off locations for parents, just so the kids can skip some of those areas where normally they would all mix together, and we can avoid that as much as possible. So that answers those two. We have a question about buses. Will buses still run? Yes, and that's for all of us. Buses will still run. We do encourage everybody to carpool, bring your kid on your own as much as you can. For those kids that are on the bus, they will be required to wear masks. We'll have hand sanitizer on the bus. We'll have the windows open when we can, and the buses will be disinfected, sanitized after each route. So morning route happens, there's one group of kids that comes in, they get off the bus, we'll clean it thoroughly, and then it's ready for the afternoon route. Bus comes back without the kids, we clean it again thoroughly so it's ready for that next morning route. Okay, how will students social distance in the hallways, in class? We've talked about lunch and on the school bus. We have a couple of areas in the campus here where we can have a one-way rotation around, or a one-way traffic pattern around our library for the high school area, and then around the lockers for junior high. So we'll plan on that. And again, with the staggering of kids moving from class to lunch and from class to class, we'll avoid having all the kids out in the halls at the same time. So we've got a longer than usual passing period for this year to start off with. And teachers can use some of that time for cleaning, but then some of that time will be for the actual passing period. So we can stagger that and get kids where they need to go without everybody being out at once. In classrooms, we will, as is mentioned in the plan, we will keep desks as far apart as we can. We have, our classrooms, we have some small classrooms, we have some large classrooms, but regardless of the size, the desks will be spread out as much as possible. We just have a few rooms that may have some round tables or larger tables, and everything is not an individual student desk. So we're going to have to spread out in there as well. And for some of those, we will bring in some extra seating so that we can be sure kids are able to distance in the classrooms. Just looking through my questions, see. Mr. Johnson answered almost all the questions in his beginning, so that was nice. I got to put a lot over to the side. There's a question about preferred computer and programs for 6th grade and 7th grade or any other grade. Really, a Chromebook should get you by. If you have a laptop, a phone is definitely not preferred. It's just too small. But laptop, desktop computer, Chromebook, I would say that's all that you would need if you're working from home. We're going to do a survey. We'll do that with our registration packet, similar to what we did in the spring, to try to find out where our needs are with families that may need some help with technology or internet. So we'll do that, a survey like that again. So we want to make sure that everybody has what they need, but there shouldn't be any special program to be used. Our kids that are here at school will use Chromebooks. We're going to have a little different process with Chromebooks also this year compared to how we've done it in the past. In the past, our students may come into an 8th grade social studies class and there's a Chromebook cart, and the kids grab a Chromebook, they sit down, they work on it, and then they put that Chromebook back in the cart and they go on to their next class where there could be another Chromebook cart. They get a Chromebook out, they use it, put it back. So we want to avoid that, so we're not handling a lot of the same Chromebooks all day long. So kids will be able to grab one in the morning at a specific place, either first or second period, depending on their schedule. And then they will turn it in at the end of the day. We have a few minutes built in at the end so they can get those Chromebooks checked back in. So kids that are here on campus will have access to Chromebooks as they have before, but they'll just have the one that they use and carry it with them all day and then put it back at the end of the day, and it'll be ready for them in the morning. So they won't take them home, but they'll have access to those here. Kids will move from classroom to classroom. Teachers will not. We will have, as I mentioned, the passing periods will be staggered. We'll have cleaning in between classes. So teachers will each have their own individual classroom, and the students will move class to class. That is our plan at this point. Okay, answered that one. When do you want to answer this is one of the questions? When do sports start for junior high?
Yeah, here's the.
Oh, okay. We have a question about backpacks. We recommend a clear backpack. It's not required at this point, just because we know we're giving you pretty short notice. Part of our safety plan in the past has been to have kids not carry backpacks class to class, so they can keep things in their locker, grab something out of the locker on their way to their next class. So we will not be using lockers because that's a place where kids tend to congregate quite a bit. So we're gonna skip that this year. But just get your backpack that everything's going to fit in. If you can find a clear one that works, that's great. If not, it'll be okay for this year. So no worries on that. We talked about Zoom. That was some more questions.
Well, she's looking for, through those, let me address two that came up on our chat box up here. One was about, will students have their temperature taken each day as they report to school? And we are doing that now in band and athletics and some things like that. We have not been able to figure out how we can do that in a timely manner with the number of kids that are coming in and coming from different entrances and so on. So there will be a self-screening process for all staff as well as students. There are some, we've looked into some iPads that kind of you set up in the hallway and everybody walks by and it's supposed to pick out anybody that's over a certain temperature and so on. So we're keeping our eye on that. Those are, number one, very expensive, somewhat questionable in how accurate they are and so on. So we're still trying to figure out what the best way is. But for right now, when school starts and we're dealing with the large groups, there will be an emphasis on self-screening and that kind of thing instead. We have invested in a variety of thermometers that we will use at different situations and so on. By the way, you as parents, visitors coming to campus, that'll be part of the process too, is your self-screening. We have some thermometers available if needed there. Somebody else made a comment about having classes outdoors. And yes, I can't say that, 5 classes a day will be outdoors or anything like that. But yes, that is part of our discussion. Is when the weather permits, we'll be outside just as much as we can there. And certainly that lends itself to some classes and some grade levels better than others. But we are trying to work through all that and make sure there's plenty of opportunities to be outdoors.
I have a couple more.
Okay.
We had a question about what exactly is an essential visitor or a non-essential visitor. And the question was geared more toward special services or things that kids might need if they're in special ed or they have a 504 plan. Anybody that's coming in to provide services like that would definitely be essential. We'll let Andrew speak to parents helping in classrooms. We don't have that so much over here. I don't know why. I don't know why we don't have parents helping, but if you want to, call us. But Andrew, if you don't mind, when it's your turn, if you'll answer for elementary about parents helping in classrooms, because I know the elementary gets a lot of parents that do that, a lot of support that way. So we'll address that with elementary. Let's see. We had several questions about Zoom and how's that going to look, and Mr. Johnson addressed that. We're still working on our day-to-day instructional plan. How are we going to make that work? We will have times that I believe kids could work on things on their own and not be tied to a schedule, but most of what they do will be tied to our school schedule. There will be some times that they'll need to be available at the actual class time, but we will definitely get more details out to you on that. We're working with teachers and fleshing that plan out. We had another question about kids that may have some anxiety or just uncertainty, as a lot of us do in this time, and how are we going to address that? If we're social distancing, are we going to, have to try to comfort somebody from 6 feet away? We want to be safe, but part of being safe is also the emotional and mental well-being of our students and our staff. So we will comfort kids. We've got counselors that can help us with that. I can't imagine anybody turning a kid away or saying, I can't talk to you unless you're 6 feet away. I mean, we want to be safe, but we also have to be very sensitive to the social emotional needs of our students and our staff. So we'll work with that, and I think just do as we have in the past, being very sensitive to our kids and helping them to not feel anxious and to feel supported by our staff.
That's been a topic of discussion quite a bit, actually, all the way dating back to March of last year, because the break is so long. So on, there's the possibility of separation anxiety and other things that we need to be aware of. So our counselors are working on some of that already with some plans, and we'll be addressing our staff as a part of our in-service process when we bring our staff back next week. So they're trying to do some training with all of us on that and giving us heads up on ideas and thoughts along those lines.
I think I just have one more on cleaning and cleaning supplies. We will have cleaning supplies necessary for everything we're doing in between classes, during classes. If kids feel more comfortable, of course, they can bring their own hand sanitizer. If they, I don't know, have some special feeling about some certain wipes they want to use, I don't know. If they would feel more comfortable with having some additional cleaning supplies with them, as long as it's safe. We do have some rules here. You may check with us before they bring anything, but hand sanitizer is definitely fine. But we will be supplying things that we'll be using in between classes and on buses and cafeteria and all of that. So again, if they feel more comfortable with something, let us know. Other than hand sanitizer, it would probably be good for everybody to have some of that. But we will also have that in every classroom and every area of the building and the entrances and exit doors.
Okay. I think we'll shift over to Coach Phillips and let him talk a little bit about the athletic things at the secondary campus.
Hello, everybody. Glad to see y'all. Just going to give you a few quick updates on athletics, where we stand. We have been having strength and conditioning sessions for our high school students only. We haven't allowed junior high students, just number one, for safety precautions. Number two, just the amount of space that we were limited to getting kids in. We've had some nights we had over 80 high school students, so it was just really not feasible for us to do that. But junior high athletes are going to have a lot of time once the school year starts, and I'll come back to that question in a minute. But we did get some UIL updates Tuesday. Some good updates, not great, good. All our seasons are still going full speed ahead. We do have some changes as far as our scheduling goes. For example, football lost a scrimmage. Volleyball is not going to be allowed any tournaments, nor basketball. But as of right now, we're in a pretty good place athletically, with some definite safety precautions that UIL and TA has put out for us to follow. But we'll be getting practice schedules out. We've had to adjust those after the announcement on Tuesday, as well as our game schedules, but those should be out first part of next week. We'll try to get those posted and out to kids and y'all as quick as we can. Physicals real quickly, just to make sure everybody's up to date on physicals. We have waivers this year from UIL. The only students that are required athletically for physicals are incoming 7th graders and anybody we don't have a physical on file for. So if there's a 9th grade student for some reason that didn't play athletics in junior high, we may not have a physical on file. That student would be required to get a physical as well. Real quickly, mask is one question that I've been asked. Yes, we are going to have to use mask. We've been using mask in our strength and conditioning sessions the last couple of weeks. The thing is, when they're actively exercising, they don't have to have a mask on. If they're going into a building, out of a building, if they're just standing around, then we're requiring them to have a mask. For example, the rules we have now for a football game, even if a student is on the field, they don't have to have a mask on. But if they're on the sideline, they're going to have a mask on. So we're trying to figure that out. We're going to try to provide something for the students to use in athletics. They can use their personal one during the day, but we will have an athletic mask of some sort just for that reason. A couple other things. The biggest question we've had is will students that are at home that choose the virtual learning option, can they participate in athletics? Now, the first thing we have to clear up, if you're enrolled in our school district, we're going to allow it. If you are homeschooled and not enrolled in our district, there's a difference between virtual learner and a homeschool learner. If you're homeschooled, not enrolled in our district, then no, you cannot participate in athletics. But if you are enrolled in our district and you have chosen the virtual learning, you can participate in athletics, but we are requiring that the student come back to school or come to school for the athletic period. Most of our practices start for a high school student, for example, during 8th period. So we would require that the student, they're at home periods 1 through 7, but 8th period, they're going to have to come to school and be here because that's when most of our practices start. So hopefully that clears that up. Junior high athletics will start the first day of school. All junior high practices for years have started the first day of school. This year is no exception. And actually this year we will have more time since we're starting school a little bit earlier. We're going to have a lot of time. A football, for example, if you have a 7th grader that's going to play football, they will have a month before their first game. They'll have a month of practice. So all that, and they'll get all that information out the first day of school. We'll start sending stuff home and getting that all cleared up. And I think that is anything else I need to cover that y'all can think of. Those were the questions that were presented. So I think I'm good.
Okay. So I think the biggest question that I was getting and that Coach Phillips addressed was whether a student could do the at-home learning and still participate in athletics. And the answer to that was yes, but they do have to be at school for the athletic period. So in junior high, that makes it a little tougher because junior high is not at the end of the day in the athletic period. And that means somebody's bringing them up here and then taking them home and then bringing them back up here after school. So just be aware of how that may play out based on your child's age. But safety reasons, everything else, they need to know what's going on before they step into that arena. So we think that's important, or I believe that's important. All right, we're going to move to Miss Tagle for the band stuff, and then after that we'll head to Mr. Udy for elementary. Miss Tagle.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to cover a few things about band this year. We've already kind of been starting up already. This past week we had color guard camp and drumline camp, and that went really well. We are still going to have summer band this next week, Monday through Thursday, no Friday rehearsal. And when we're having band, we're following all the procedures. We're keeping everyone 6 feet apart if at all possible. Anytime that we're indoors, we're going to be separated into 3 separate groups. So we won't be all in one room. And when we're outside, of course, we can rehearse together. But anytime we're inside, we'll be in 3 separate rooms.
That's high school only, right?
High school only, yes. And junior high too will be separated into 2 rooms, I believe. Some other things we're going to be doing is, and questions that I've had too were about masks. And the kids are they're supposed to wear a mask when they're not performing. They can take it off when they're performing, but anytime they're coming into the room, leaving the room, or just not performing at all, they have to wear their mask. Okay. Some other things, we're going to have hand sanitizer everywhere so that they can use that. We have a sink and they can wash their hands anytime they need to in the band hall. We're going to make sure that they're able to do that a lot. Some other things too also had a question about when the brass players have to empty their water from their horn. They usually just empty it on the carpet, but that's not going to happen anymore. We're going to have some sanitizing wipes that they're going to use, and they can keep the cloth on the floor, they can use it, and then it's going to go into another bucket, and those will be put into chemicals and they will be sanitized, and we won't reuse them all day. They'll just go into the bucket after every class. Some other things. We are going to keep going with the marching band, we're gonna have contests this year. We got the new rules out this week too, and everything's been pushed back about a month or so. We don't know the exact dates yet. I did send out a calendar, but those dates are probably gonna change. We won't know until about another 2 weeks when those dates are gonna be, but we could move all the way into December for marching band, for state marching band. So we still plan on competing as much as we can, and we're gonna keep going and try to keep it as normal as possible while practicing all of our safety precautions. Trying to think here. Is there anything else we talked about? Oh, physicals. There was a question about physicals, and if they're in high school band and they don't have a physical on file, we'll require one. Junior high will not, we won't require one for junior high band. Just for high school band if they don't already have one on file. Okay, and also the at home, if they're at home, they will have to come to band third period and Monday night practice for high school band if they want to be in band and stay at home, I believe. Is that what we talked about? Okay. And I think that's all I have right now. So, but if you have any questions, just email me and I'll get back to you.
Okay. There were a couple questions in the chat. One was about dual credit. Dual credit is basically as normal at this point? The comments you want to make on dual credit?
We're staying in contact with Howard College, so we can let our students and our families know for high school, for our dual credit college courses, if anything's changing with them. Right now we're planning on, we do have a couple that happen, 2 or 3 that happen at school, either through video with the teacher, or we have a professor that comes here on campus for one of those. So we're staying in contact with them. For kids that choose to do at-home learning, remote digital learning, we will make sure we have an option for them. But that is up to Howard College. So I can't guarantee that that will still be able to happen if that all of the college classes will be able to happen for our at-home learners. But they've so far been really willing to be flexible for us. And I think it may, for dual credit, it may involve just a change from a video meeting with the professor or an in-person professor to an online class, which is different and more at this whenever the student has time to do it. But that is an option for at least a couple of our dual credit classes.
Okay, thank you. And I noticed there was another question there that had to do with registration on Monday and Tuesday and whether they could do at least some of the paperwork ahead of time.
Yes.
And
yes.
Some of that is online.
Yes, the elementary paperwork is posted. There are a few differences between each campus. And for junior high, high school, ours may already be posted. If not, it'll be posted later today. It'll be later tomorrow. Some of it, when you come through the line, you've got to check the information that we have and make sure it's correct. So the whole packet won't be there, but most of it will be kind of those generic pieces that you can just sign and have your students sign.
Okay. We're going to go to Mr. Udy here for the elementary. Someone just asked, said they got in late and we're asking about lunchtime routines. I don't know that we're going to go back and repeat all that, but basically the secondary campus students will be spread out into different locations as a part of that lunchtime process. But Mr. Udy, can you talk to us a little bit about the elementary?
All right. Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go over a lot that Mrs. Carter went over. I'll kind of go back through those kind of same points and try to hit on that more from the elementary perspective. I'm just going back to what he just said, registration. If you go on the elementary Facebook page, it's on the website as well. You can find part of the paperwork that will make registration go much faster if you already have that filled out. Then, like we said, you'll have some paperwork specific to your child or your students that will need your signature. That doesn't take as long, as well as some transportation paperwork, any paperwork that you need to file with the nurse, as well as selecting a decision for in-person learning or remote learning. We'll have people out there to answer questions as well on Monday and Tuesday. Also hit on lunch and breakfast at the elementary school. We are looking at breakfast in classrooms. The high school has some space. They have the different gyms where they're able to spread out. We don't really have that where we can spread out 375 students. So we are looking at students eating breakfast in the classrooms. They will still eat lunch in the cafeteria. Whereas right now there's some overlap between grade levels. It'll pretty much be one grade level at a time in the cafeteria where we're able to clean in between. We're able to social distance in there. We can actually have quite a bit of space between students. And then we can clean as they leave and get ready for the next group coming in. We are looking at going with that because our recess is kind of opposite of our lunch. We are looking at extending recess as well. That way with especially our 4th and 5th grade that do wear masks, that gives them even longer outside where they're not having to wear a mask. We also are extending the day. So I think the day ends 3:45 now. So with that extended day, that gives us a little bit more time outside. Gives us a little bit of an extension there. Talking about buses, kind of what our typical morning is going to look like. It's going to be much different. That's probably the biggest change that parents, teachers, students are going to see when they're coming in. Right now, everybody comes in through one door. We're going to change that to 3 different doors. We'll send out a map later that has some instructions. We're hoping to get that in there for registration. If not, we'll get that posted online, emailed out where parents have access to that. We'll also get it to homeroom teachers so that they can send that out as well. The afternoon, as of right now, will still look mostly the same. In the morning, students will no longer go to the cafeteria. I saw one on the chat. Will no longer go to the cafeteria and the gym. They will go straight down to the hallways. So there will be a combination of students in hallways and classrooms, whether they're eating breakfast or not eating breakfast. So they'll be supervised down there where we can keep them separated and have better social distancing. It's going to make it much easier to clean than it would be having them all either in the gym or the cafe. Our goal to begin with is, as far as social distancing goes, students are still going to rotate in grades 2 through 5. Kindergarten first, they don't rotate already. We will spread out desks and classroom the most that we can to get social distancing in there. We'll have cleaning procedures. The good thing, a lot of our teachers already have great cleaning procedures and they train students on how to do that. It'll be a combination of custodians, teachers, students, all making sure our areas are clean. In 2nd and 5th, students will still rotate. Our goal is to basically keep students to their grade level. In the past, they may have crossed over with other grade levels, especially the other grade level that's in their hallway. Now, whether it's lunch, morning, fine arts, we would like them just to be with their grade level. As far as fine arts go, we still will have fine arts. They may look a little bit different, but they will still have music. They will still have PE. They will still have library. They still will have computer lab. We're looking at a lot of PE outside, even music outside, classes outside. Like Mr. Johnson said, I can't tell you there's going to be these 5 classes outside, but I think when we can make it work, teachers can get them out there, especially like 4th and 5th grade where they will have the masks on, where they can take that mask or that face covering off. Would be a goal there. But the teachers do have the option to go ahead and get them outside. I wanted to hit on school supplies real quick. It does have cleaning supplies, and if you look on the bottom right corner of the school supply list, it says if you can't find those cleaning supplies, that's fine. If you can, great. We can bring them to school, but we do know cleaning supplies are very difficult to find right now. So if you can find those, great. If you can't find it, don't worry about it. Visitors in the building. I was going to come back to that. Well, initially we'll only have essential visitors, like Mrs. Carter talked about. Anything that deals with 504 special education, special services like that will be allowed in the building. We'll screen them coming in. We can take temperatures up in the front office, and we can get them through where they need to be. We are not allowing any parent volunteers, any visitors, any eating lunch with students. So basically, other than the necessary people that we need in the building, no one else is going to be currently allowed in the building right now. The hope, I think, with a lot of this stuff is that we can get back, as we can get back to normal, as that becomes possible, we will. I don't think we see these things as forever things, but as for right now, there will be no visitors allowed in the building. First day of school, parents won't be able to walk their students in. It's unfortunate, but we can't have that many people in the building. We will have plenty of staff, especially when you're talking about pre-K and kindergartners. When it's their first time in school, we will have plenty of staff that will be able to get them walk to their classrooms, and we'll definitely make sure that they're where they need to be. Mental health of students, that's very important. Last year we started implementing the Character Strong program. We plan to do that. We plan to even have some more specific small groups for students that are having trouble with, say, the social distancing or just everything that's going on now. So we do have plans for that. We definitely want to take care of our students during this time. One of our big goals, I met with teachers yesterday, is to try to keep the day to look as normal as possible for the students. It's definitely looking different for the teachers with them balancing between in-school and remote school. But we do definitely want to try to make it to look as normal as possible for students, for them to be comfortable. Preferred remote devices, 2nd through 5th, a Chromebook would be great if you are doing remote schooling. Kinder and first, I think a Chromebook, or pre-K through first, I think a Chromebook works great too. I also think an iPad works great in that as well, because most of the things that they would use is accessible via an iPad. Once you get to 2nd grade, that's probably when it's more of a step up to more of a computer type device. Probably becomes better to get everything done that needs to be. Let me look through here. Buses. Mr. Johnson, correct me if I'm wrong. Every student on a bus needs to have a mask on, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so pre-K through 5th, if they're riding a bus, needs to have a mask on before they get on the bus, and that mask has to stay on until after they get on the bus. Pre-K through 3rd, once they are off the bus, can then take that mask off. 4th and 5th would have to keep the mask on. So hopefully that makes sense. The bus is a very, very confined area, and the same protocol as the high school. We'll be sanitizing that bus after every route. We'll open windows, we'll let it air out. But when they are on that bus, pre-K, so pre-K through 12, if you're on a bus, are going to have to be wearing a mask or a face covering. All right, I think I have covered most everything off this list.
Okay, well, let me hit a couple other things. So Mr. Udy referenced, we talked about that the rules, the law, executive order says 10-year-olds and up have to wear masks. Mr. Udy talked about 4th grade. So that may be a local policy on top of the state policy. So we are saying that because students, for the most part, turn 10 years old during 4th grade, we're going to interpret that to mean that all 4th graders need to. So there will be some 9-year-olds early in the year that will be asked to wear a mask in 4th grade. So all 4th graders, even though some are still 9, will be asked to wear a mask or a face shield or a gaiter or whatever covering they can come up with. There was a question about tryouts for athletics. If you are new, the answer is
No tryouts.
just come participate. Earn your playtime. Is
Yes.
that kind of the way it works?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
There was a comment about band and blowing stuff through there. Yep. I don't know.
We're going to spread out as far as we can and air out the band hall with the doors open and
Yeah.
the best we can.
They're working on trying to spread out, and I don't know if you heard the doors. There's 2 sets of doors there. They're going to try and do several things to try and mitigate that. But same thing with football. You're going to tackle somebody, you don't have a mask on. You tackle me at my age, I'm probably something's going to come out my mouth when you do that. So so there are some risks. I mean, that's I don't know how to change all that, but good point. Be aware of that. Question about Zoom, whether Zoom was considered in-person attendance. That's not exactly what it's written. But so the rule we talked about was you had to be in attendance for athletics and band during the day in order to participate in that. And Zoom is not in person. So you got to hear the person next to you. You got to be a part of a group and all that. You got to learn the marching program in high school. That can't be done through Zoom. Junior high, I saw junior high supply list. What can we have prepared for high school students? You want to?
Our high school supply list in the past, and we'll do that this year as well. Kids will be given those on the first day of school, but you can have definitely the basics like paper, pencils, pens, backpack for sure. So things that kids would use anyway, class to class. Excuse me. There aren't a lot of really specialized materials that will be needed for high school, but kids will get lists of those on the first day of school.
Mr. McVickers is reminding me that we do have a bring your own device policy. So several years ago, we started doing that with, I was just seniors, I think first, and then it was anybody that was in a dual credit class, and we've gradually expanded that. For this coming year, the bring your own device will be applicable for secondary campus, so 6th grade through 12th grade. If your child has a computer, a laptop, a Chromebook of their own, and you're more comfortable with that for safety reasons, for cleanliness, there could be several reasons why you might want to do that. That is allowed. There is a process. There is some paperwork that's required. There's some rules that require us to make sure that you understand what the dangers of that technology are as far as access to the internet and some things like that. So there is a process, but yes, 6th through 12th, we do have a BYOD, bring your own device policy in place. So you can do that. Okay. Where are we? Mr. Udy, are you good?
I'm good.
We said we try and shut down at 11. It's 11:07. I'm sure there's many questions that we probably did not get to. I know there were some specific ones to specific people dealing with their child, and we'll try and respond to those in a different format. We appreciate your patience. We're trying to figure it out. Certainly do not want to give the impression that we think we've got it all figured out yet, because we don't. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to change as the rules change. And I do fully expect that rules will change as the school year goes on. Either we'll learn that something isn't working well, or the state will require that we change, or as I said, the county could change things for us, whatever. There are other groups that play a role in this, but we appreciate your patience. I assume that the people on this call especially have a lot of interest in the at-home learning situation. So as we can, we'll provide that information to you. I will end with this. I truly believe that the best education, now it may not be the safest, but the best education that we can provide is going to be provided here at school, where there's interaction and we can see their faces and they can see our faces and we can communicate that way, and it be more in real time. But completely understand that there may be situations in your own lives and in your families that make the at-home learning more appropriate for you, and we will do everything we can to try and help with that. And for some reason, it looks like we're getting a bunch of messages coming in, but we may have to deal with those after. Are we good? Thank you, guys. We do appreciate you. Keep communicating with us. We'll do what we can. Thank y'all.